In order to achieve it, you've got to imagine it first. Today, we'll be discussing imagination's impact on accessing our potential, to drawing a bigger overall picture, and to being the change the world needs. I proudly welcome the beautiful minds of music of Rochester, New York singer-songwriters, the brothers Blue and Canadian author Robin Pawlik. My name is Amanda Ashley, and this is Afternoon Cocktail, episode 108, Imagined. Welcome. The Brothers Blue, welcome to Afternoon Cocktail. Such a pleasure to have you guys. Guys, I think you're muted.
Yep.
Hey. Oh, there we go.
How are you, Amanda? Thanks for having us.
Such a pleasure. I really so enjoy your music. What are you going to perform for us?
We've got a couple new songs on the burner here. The first song we're going to play is a brand new tune Ben wrote called Hemlock High.
Beautiful. Take it away.
Yeah, great.
We'll wait for our fiddle player here. This is about a lake south of Rochester, about 35 miles south of Rochester, Hemlock Lake.
Guys, I love the microphone. So cool.
Thank you. Good try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hemlock high, golden hillside by the shore. Pins and needles, dandelion in my teeth, in my teeth. I can see the highest pine cone on the tree. Branches weeping frame a shelter around me. Hanging valley, follow fracture up the stream. Broken shell, rendered aged, under hill, under hill. Ancient timber, steep to harvest, but by the rill. Oaken roots woven through the glacial till. Roots and rivers unified and grow wide. Once the sea, now the summit finds the tide again. Bounded only by the confines of my mind. I can't wait to wake the morning, hemlock high. I can't wait to wake the morning, hemlock high.
So beautiful, gentlemen. Thank you for starting my day like this. Could you please introduce the three of you? Who are you? Tell us about the Brothers Blue.
We are Charlie Blue playing fiddle. I'm Benny Blue playing the banjo, and this is our big brother Matthew Blue playing the guitar.
I love it. So how did you blues come to know each other?
Well, in the womb, of course. But, no, no,
Are you guys really
but
brothers?
no, we're not. We're not.
Only in
Okay.
spirit.
We're letting the cat out of the bag on your show, Amanda. But yeah, no, Ben and I grew up together in Honeoye, New York, and
Okay.
we really learned to play together. We learned to play guitar back in middle school and high school, and we formed a band.
We started out as a Pink Floyd cover band.
That's right.
Pink
Wow.
Floyd and Rush. Yeah.
That's quite the contrast. I mean, how do we end up creating this beautiful music, like aside from rock?
Yeah, good question. So we basically after high school, Ben moved off to California, studied geology at USC. I did a couple of years at Finger Lakes Community College studying music, and ended up in Buffalo, where I live now, and studied classical guitar there. I joined an Irish folk group in South Buffalo called Crickwater, and Charlie joined the band as our fiddle player. So that's how I met Charlie. And then Ben moved back from California. He joined a band called the Crawdaddies, so he found his way to folk music.
That's
And
right, Miss Heather Taylor.
that's right. Yeah, Heather. Yeah.
So the Crawdaddies carried on without Heather, though, correct?
Yeah, in fact, we're still carrying on. We
Yeah.
don't play a whole lot these days, but usually as a trio with Washboard Dave and Jay Chafee, and sometimes our friend Radwald Holland Bolton joins in as well.
So how does the Brothers Blue differ from the Crawdaddies and the sound? Like, how would you explain a difference?
Yeah, I would say the Brothers Blue really, we stick to a lot of kind of common folk forms of music. We try to kind of carry on traditions that started long ago, and typically in our songwriting, kind of the structure of the songs, we don't deviate a lot from kind of the old country and bluegrass classics that inspire us. We sort of just kind of carry on that vessel, and of course make it our own and have our own interpretation. But we kind of use the limitations of these old folk forms to we'll use our imagination and kind of use something that is somewhat restricted to make our own thing out of.
That's right. When people ask us what our genre is, we always have a hard time with that. Everybody likes to lump this kind of music into the umbrella of bluegrass, but any bluegrass fans would know it's not so similar. So we just call ourselves an old-timey blue country stringgrass band, and that seems to work.
You guys ever listen to any of the Avett Brothers?
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I love their earlier albums, especially.
Yeah.
I just got turned on. Beau turned me onto them. I mean, probably I guess it's been a few years now, but they're amazing. And like some of your music reminds me of that sound, like more of like a contemporary folk storytelling type sound. I mean, that's what I hear.
Those sibling harmonies. That's
Yeah, yes, I love it. I mean, it makes me think of, have you guys ever, I mean, are you doing this, or do you ever think about possibly like submitting your music for films? Because think about it, like
we haven't thought a lot about it, but
when, okay,
we
talking
do
about
think of our music in a fairly
imagination.
cinematic way. Yeah.
Well, imagining, you know, like when I hear your music and I close my eyes, I could imagine like two things, either like a homeward bound type situation where it's like animals are on the loose in the beautiful country, you know, or like something just like adventure wise, you know, like there was a weird movie like a few years ago. I don't know. I'm not going to quote it right. But anyway, you know, like Western type movies even, or like some like traveling down south. It creates like an image for I don't, your harmonies and the way you carry your
Well, that's
music.
cool of you to say.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Do
actually in line with a lot of our music came from adventures with the three of us, whether we were camping on a camping trip or just as we've been on the road to gigs. Like a lot of our songs come from our own little adventures together. So I guess we
love
do
that.
have that spirit. Yeah.
And we did actually end up on an Austrian
Oh
documentary.
yeah, that's
for,
right.
a
A documentary about Sigmund Freud, and made in Austria, and our music was used for it for some
No
reason.
way.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Worked out.
Amazing. Yeah, like anything like that. It doesn't have to necessarily be a movie, but like you're saying, like biographies or, like I think your music just could really set a beautiful tone for, if it's about that right type of story,
We'll
definitely
be
like
on the
looking
Ken
into.
Burns Civil War Part 2.
That's right.
So tell us about, I mean, your most recent record. What's it called? Record. I sound like an old lady. Your most recent release. Okay, what's it called? And what does that album, like, what's it symbolic for you as a band?
Oh, well, the latest album that we came out with was back in 2019, right? And we called that River Rollin' was the name of the album. And, you know,
We recorded it in Ithaca, New York. Actually, it's our only album that we've ever recorded in a studio. We've typically self-produce our own records, and I think it was part of our vision for that record to not have to worry about pushing the buttons and making sure that we're actually recording and all that, the technical stuff. And so we left that to Will at Electric Wilburland, and we were able to just go in and create. But yeah, I think all of our albums are similar in that we play some traditional music, some old traditional folk music, and then our own kind of modern spin-offs of that music.
Guys, what's your creative process like? Like when you're writing a song, is it like, does one of you primarily take on like the lyrical content and then, or like the vocal melody, and then you guys just kind of sit around and like try some ideas out? Or is it like you guys all sit from scratch and write together?
Well, historically, what we've basically done is Ben, might come up with a song, and he'll write the song almost from beginning to end, and then send us a recording of it. Charlie and I'll learn, the music or whatever, and
not just me, like
yeah,
all
right,
three of
just-
us in that kind of form. Yeah.
Sure, but as an example, so but for me, like the songs that I write, I really always felt like they were never quite complete until these guys came in and put their parts on it, and so it's always been collaborative in that way. We haven't necessarily sat down and written lyrics together, but the parts that they come up with just sometimes moves the song into a whole different direction that I never even considered. And a couple of our new songs, our brand new ones, we've intentionally kind of left them half done.
Yeah.
Wrote the song about halfway and then sent the recording and said, okay, you guys, do you have any ideas of where this could go? So that's been fun. That's been a little bit different from what we've done in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Like instead of thinking of the songwriting process how we've normally thought about it, I think more recently we're trying to just create the space to allow ourselves to be creative together, and like Matt said, kind of half write a song and then kind of finish it up as the trio.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have a good chemistry going on, and it's not easy to write with people. Like I think when you find that genuine connection among writers, like that's a special thing to hold on to. So good for you guys. I mean, and you write beautifully together. Have you all? Wait, so Ben, you're the geologist?
Yeah, yeah. Former geologist, recovering geologist. Yeah.
You guys have a song called Geology.
Yeah, we
That's
do.
right.
We do. Which
Tell us-
really is more of a lament about current trends in technology than anything else, kind of being fed up with having a new gadget for every little thing we do in life, and kind of wishing that I could just go camp out and look at rocks for a living,
I love it. I mean, so do you think that's something you'd maybe go back into in life? Do you miss it?
Well, yeah, I guess I can't say I miss it because it's still something I think about all the time. To be honest, when I was working professionally as a geologist, I was doing environmental geology, which I deal more with spilled gasoline and diesel fuel than I do with actually seeing rocks. And so I don't miss that aspect of things, but I still think about geology and read about it all the time. And probably if I got back into it, it'd be more from an educational point of view than an actual professional point of view.
Sure. So how does like I mean, I want to say, and this applies to all three of you, your lives outside of music, how does your everyday life inspire your more imaginative side? Does that make sense? That question, I just made it up.
Yeah.
Like, how does because I feel like your imagination is almost like an altered reality, right? It's like we take little bits and pieces of our reality and um we kind of relish in what it could be, or like it's taken a little element of fantasy and insert it with reality. I
Well,
mean, that's
I
how I
think,
see it.
yeah, I think that's a main ingredient in songwriting in particular. I think if we're always coming to topics that have to do with, ourselves and our own lives, in always writing from that point of view, I found that became a little stale for me after a while. So, one of the things that I try to do in my songwriting is use my imagination a lot, to put myself in the shoes of other people. And uh, a number of our songs kind of come from that perspective of not necessarily a personal experience, but somebody that we know that went through that experience, and imagining what that might have been like, So yeah, as far as daily life goes, I think I'm always on the lookout for imaginative inspirations like that, especially the people that I meet and the situations that they're going through. And I'm always thinking of how, how that might be a song. So
Yeah. I think it goes both ways too. Not only is imagination an alternate reality, but I think all of our realities incorporate our own imaginations without even trying. Like we all filter the world through our own points of view, and kind of respecting that and recognizing that everyone is coming at it from their place and their history and their creative thought process, and so nobody's realities are the same. They're all kind of imaginative in a way.
Yeah, definitely personalized. Like I was thinking, I mean, just thinking about this topic and writing this morning, it's crazy how many layers there are to having an imagination, because like in one sense, I have a 4-year-old, so I look at him and right now his imagination is just exploding. Like he's taking in information from his life and what he knows about, but also his curiosity for the things he's just coming across for the first time, how those two things combined, and then like with the influence of whatever he sees on YouTube, or that he's watching in his like children's shows, from stories that I read him, like how all that stuff like conglomerated, right?
yeah,
For you, you geologist, you take that and you put it all together, and you got one solid rock of like,
that's right.
you
Yeah.
know,
That's right.
cool.
That's absolutely right.
And man, kids are the best because you see that very, very early on, we're trying to make sense of it all. We're trying to understand why things happen, and kids come up with the craziest ideas and reasons behind things that we just don't find interesting at all because our imagination in that particular place has been, obliterated, and we just know how it works or something. But when you have the freedom to kind of interpret the world in your own way, you can come up with some crazy things.
Totally. I think it's like also like I never really thought about this before like 2 days ago, but like the kind of like how imagination feeds into your creativity, right? Like being your creativity and your imagination, one kind of fuels the other, and the other one puts like the other into production.
Right.
Is that, am I just
Yeah.
blabbering nothing? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like taking your imagination and as the fuel for what your grand idea is, and then creatively figuring out a way to make that idea a reality. I see that more in my adult life, as I approach like my career and the things that I want to achieve. I'm sure I'm not alone on that. I bet you guys could relate to that too.
Oh, certainly,
Yeah.
certainly, absolutely. And I think I loved, you talking about your 4-year-old. I have a 3-year-old, and I see the same thing, and I feel like kids have such an incredible connection with their imagination, where there is no true distinction necessarily between what we call reality and imagination, and I envy that a little bit in my adult life too. It's hard to sometimes get into that imaginative, creative space where you're oftentimes thinking too much about, like, how will this be perceived, or no, that's a silly idea, or this. Kids don't worry about that kind of thing. They just let their imagination go free, and whatever comes out of it, they do. So yeah, I mean, like, I think we could all learn something from watching kids and be a little bit more childlike.
Yeah, absolutely. I know having a child definitely brings out the child in me, like just kind of like reliving things and seeing things with like it, fresh lenses again.
Right.
Like they just bring you back to like such humble beginnings, like I mean my and then to be honest too, like my boy tries to pull us into like his world. Like he's really into Minecraft.
Oh yeah.
So like he's obsessed with Minecraft and gaming, and he like his favorite thing to do, which is mine and Beau's least favorite thing to engage with, is play real life Minecraft. So
Oh, yeah.
it's not like, real life playing the game. It's real life, like you're going to be Alex, I'm going to be Steve, and there's a bunch of creepers over there. And this, like they're attacking us now. Right. And I'm like, and we're like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
kill the creeper, like
Right.
Remy, this is not fun,
Yes.
like this is, can we just play the real game,
That's right.
and then when I walk myself back from that, because like I mean that's how we truly feel and we're just being brutal, but like honestly, like this kid's imagination, he's taken the thing that he knows best and that he's most excited about, and he wants to create that in life, and he's imagining that he's seeing these things. And like when I think about it, like I get like mom guilt, because I'm like,
Yeah.
man, like you don't want to stifle anybody's imagination, like at least he's like building these images in his mind, and
That's
that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely, but it's hard for us as adults. I wonder where it is along the way that we lose that ability to see things so vividly,
Yeah.
in our own imagination,
well, it's
in the world,
because yeah, our heads are just so congested with adulting. It's like we have so much other stuff going on that we can't make that space for it in our minds until we have to, right?
Yeah.
If you have a kid and like somebody they're craving that attention,
That's
but
right.
otherwise we're gonna put that aside, in most cases.
Although, like you said, when you're thinking about your career, I know we do it, and anybody in, I think in their career, when you think about what am I going to be doing 5 years, 10 years down the road, you can't help but daydream, and we do tap into those same skills. They're just in a very professional way, I guess. But you still have to, like you said, like you started with, you have to imagine it before you can set out and do anything. And for people who do stuff, like it takes a lot of imagination, I think.
I see imagination being pretty linked to goals.
Hmm.
Like you have to imagine what it is that you really want for yourself. And then from there, that's where you could, if you want to, go get it, that's where you could kind of develop your plan of action. Like I see this is ultimately what I want to achieve. Right. But I know I'm going to have to start checking off the list some things, before I get there.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I try to like think about the great innovators of our time. Think of like Steve Jobs,
Sure.
right? That guy was a visionary,
Mm.
and he imagined all these things up, and people thought he was crazy for it. Albert Einstein, like I mean
Yeah.
anybody that was like these brilliant figures of our time, like they were innovators, but their innovation came from their creativity and imagination.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Good stuff. What do you guys have coming up? Are you playing out yet?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm sure you experienced something similar. Is that we went from a dead halt to a slow crawl, and now to a sprint, total sprint, and everything opened up, and our boom, 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 boom. Our
Thank
calendar filled up.
goodness. Yeah.
So yeah, our most recent show is actually going to be tomorrow evening at in East Aurora. We're playing at 42 North Brewery, which always love playing there. Those guys are always good to us over there. But coming up, we have a few kind of bigger shows. We'll be playing at Fox Run Winery on Cuca
Is that
Lake.
Geneva? Oh, okay.
Seneca.
Seneca.
South
Yeah,
of
so
Geneva,
south
yeah.
of Geneva. And that'll be June 30th. We have another show at Knox Farm State Park.
A lot of outdoor stuff. That's what we
Yeah.
love. A lot of outdoor concerts this year.
That's right.
Is that typical though for you guys, like under normal circumstance?
It's I think more outdoor stuff this year than ever before. I mean, we always play a lot of outdoor stuff in the summer, but it seems like places that used to not have outdoor options now have outdoor options.
Yeah,
I see you
exactly.
guys like being like a hit at festivals. Do you ever do like any of the festivals locally?
Well, that's a great question. It's always one of our goals. To be included in the
We are
festivals.
opening up for Donna the Buffalo, who hosts
Whoa,
Grassroots. We're opening up for them in
cool.
August 28th.
My
So
goodness.
we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
My God, I
maybe
remember seeing
festivals are
Donna
in
the
our future. Who
Buffalo.
knows?
Yeah.
I saw Donna the Buffalo came to Fredonia when I went to college there, and I
Oh, yeah.
remember watching them like at the Spot Coffee on
Yeah.
campus, and they were great. They've been around a super long time.
Yeah,
Sure
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Very cool. Well, best of luck to you all. And I hope to meet you in real life soon and catch a show in real life soon. What is your website? Where could our audience be directed to you and download all your music?
Sure. www.thebrothersblue.com. We have our show page right there. I just updated it, so it has all of our current gigs coming up. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/thebrothersbluemusic, and Instagram handle is The Brothers Blue. So yeah, follow us.
We also have a Bandcamp, right?
we do.
We have
Oh, we do.
Bandcamp, you can get
We're
music
everywhere
from.
you can be.
Yeah.
We don't have MySpace anymore though.
Nah.
No,
We just
no
got
more
rid of it.
MySpace. Well, you guys, thank you so much. You're a true pleasure. And we're going to hear one more song from the Brothers Blue at the end of our program. And in the meantime, I have the pleasure of welcoming Canadian author straight out of Alberta, right, Robin? This is Robin Pawlik.
Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
it is going great. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this. I love what you're doing here. I love that you're injecting some positivity into a world that needs it right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I mean, thanks for contributing. I mean, honestly, I'm always like honored that people even accept the invite.
Oh no, like
So-
I'm all over it.
Yeah. Well, Robin, tell us a little bit about you and your latest release. What led you on your journey to releasing Space Cadets?
Well, I was a teacher at one point. So I live in Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. So from where you are, if you just headed, to Montana, took a right, hit the border, drive 5 hours north, that would get you to Red Deer. Live in Red Deer, taught school for 31 years. I taught mostly elementary for first half of that, and upper elementary, and then shifted to middle school for the last 14 years of my career. Taught a lot of language arts, social studies. I was the middle school drama teacher. So, I mean, I've always had that creative streak. And for me, teaching was really an outlet for that creativity. And so, yeah, I always love to, like in my classroom, my students would be writing, I'd write with them, or I'd be teaching them something. And so I would write a little example of, hey, here's what I want you to do, or here's what you should not do. Right. And just having fun with that kind of thing, writing stuff for my drama students. So that was always just part of it for me. And it really, really prepared me in more ways than I was aware of at the time, really prepared me for what I'm doing now.
Did you always like planned to write a book? I mean, was being an author something you aspired to do like long ago, and now you were like, okay, I'm going to go for it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember, like I said, I've always had that sort of creative spark in me. And I've always found ways, whether it's just doodling, cartoons, acting, directing, all the different things that I was doing, most of that as part of my job. But I came to a point, I think I was in my late 30s. And I just kind of said, you know what, I've always thought I was going to write a book. And I'm not sure when that seed exactly got planted, but I just had it in my head that that was something I was going to do. And I said, it's not going to happen unless I don't know, do it. So I did. I spent a year writing what turned out to be the first draft of my now published book, Space Cadets. So that was like 20 years ago. And I would write a chapter, and then my kids at that time were like, my wife and I have 3 sons. They're all grown now, but at the time they were like between 5 and 10 years old, right? So I'd write a chapter, and that would be their bedtime story. And then so that I had a captive audience, right?
I love it.
And if they laughed at a place where I hoped they were going to laugh, then I said like, yes. And if they didn't, then I knew I had to go back to the drawing board, right? So that's kind of how that happened. And then I started playing with trying to get it published. And actually the first company I talked to said, yeah, this is just a little local company. And they said, yeah, we'll publish it. And then they didn't. And then I had, another rejection or two. And I realized the whole publishing thing is just, that part's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Writing's fun, the creativity's fun, but the whole publishing side of it is not. And, I was as a husband and a dad and a teacher, and there wasn't a lot of time and energy for that kind of hard work. So I said, when I retire. So I retired 5 years ago and published it in 2018.
So you've had this book. This book has been a work in progress for you for quite a bit of time, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, it sat there for a long time, right? So I wrote it all those years ago. And then, like I said, made a couple attempts probably within the first year to get it published. And then once I realized that was going to have to wait, it just kind of sat there. I would read it to my students every year. And they'd be, oh, like Mr. Pawlik, you got to, this should be a book. This should be a movie. Like, you got to get this published, right? And so I said, yeah, like I will. When I retire, I will, right? And so it really just sat there, aside from me reading it to my students every year, it just kind of sat there for a long stretch until I retired. And then it's funny because I thought I'd written a book, and then I retire and I start focusing on the writing, and I learn all these things, and I send it to an editor, and she somewhat cruelly ripped it apart. And so, I spent a year and a half rewriting it and making it publishing worthy, and then finally got it out.
So did you end up, after all this, going like a self-publishing route, or did you actually publish it with somebody?
No, I self-published for this one, and I've got the sequel coming out. I'm going to self-publish that too. I just decided, I retired when I was 55. I wasn't at a point in my life where I wanted to wait 20 years for someone to give me permission to do it. Mm-hmm. Because, there are things you can do to increase your chances of being published, but really, you have to find the right publisher at the right time who's looking for something that's going to work with, that they think they can sell. And yeah, I didn't want to wait. I just said, I'm going to do this, right? And I'm glad I did, because I got the book out there.
Do you think, I guess this is interesting because, like, in some ways as musicians, like there's a lot of self-publishing going on, right? Like there's a lot of, like indie self-releases, like anybody could really like get their music on Spotify or whatever. And I guess in that case, like anybody could kind of publish their own book, right?
Yep,
so what's the difference like between going to a publisher, like if you have to go through all these criticisms and it sounds like super intimidating, right? You have to go through this intimidating process, or you could just do it on your own. Like why is there more leverage to do it with a publisher these days?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that was part of, what I had to ask myself. And I guess what I've discovered is, selling it is a whole other thing, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm the author, but I'm also the publisher, and I'm in charge of marketing, and I've got to get the cover artists and the editors and all those different things, right? And it would be nice if more of my time could be dedicated just to writing. And also, professionals are going to do a much better job of marketing it and getting it out there. So, that's the downside of this. But yeah, for me, it was worth it, I think, just to get it out there.
Awesome. So, I mean, tell us about the story. Like, could you give us like a brief run through of like what the story is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about twins, Simon and Casey. So they're 12-year-old twins. And that's kind of 12 years old is kind of the upper range, in terms of my target audience. It's aimed at, we call it middle grade. So those early chapter books that kids read.
Uh-huh.
And then later you go to young adult and you're reading Hunger Games, right? This is
Kinda
the in
like
between. This is the
To
in
Kill a
between, right?
Mockingbird type of book, or like Catcher in a Rye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is in between, sort of for those upper elementary, early middle school kids. So Simon and Casey, they're 12 years old. Their dad has this workroom in the basement, and it's out of bounds, can't go in there, but they do. And they come across his invention, I just happen to have a copy of my book handy.
Hey,
So I'll
look
show
at
you.
that.
So this thing in the middle, I don't know how well you can see it, but this machine here in the middle zaps them, and they're unconscious, and they wake up and they're kind of out of it. And so they go and they kind of slump in front of the TV and watch TV, and Simon's bored and he starts to daydream. And that's kind of his go-to, right? Just escapes into dream world. And so he starts imagining that he's flying a spaceship, just like in his favorite movie series. And he can't stop. And he's stuck in the spaceship, like for real. And he panics. He's like, oh man, I wish Casey was here. And she pops in beside him. And so now these two kids are stuck in this daydream. And then these big bad aliens come along and take them prisoner. And they got to figure out what's happened to them, and how to escape, and how to get back home and back to reality, and all those kinds of things. So just the whole sort of wild space adventure kind of deal.
I love it. I mean, are you a big space dork like me?
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated. Like my son right now, like I've been introducing him to I've been teaching him all the planets and
Nice.
introducing him to the solar system. And it's always so fascinating to me. I remember being a kid and just imagining, that I was a space woman, and like flying in a rocket ship, like the things you imagine as a kid, and like how like the idea of space is just like so big.
Well, I mean, I was a kid when they went to the moon, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm that old. And so, sitting there on a little black and white TV, watching them walk on the moon, right? And I remember going to the park afterwards as a kid and swinging on the swings and imagining that it was a spaceship. So that whole idea caught my imagination from a pretty young age, for sure.
How much of your characters in your story reflect you as a child?
Of the two, Simon and Casey. So Simon's this daydreamer, imaginer. He kind of goes into his imagination to escape, and that's pretty much me. Casey is the opposite. She's all about, she's bold, and she takes risks, and she doesn't think a whole lot before she acts. She just jumps in, right? And so we have these two characters who are opposites, siblings who are opposites, who naturally fight. But I think for me, all my characters have maybe a little bit of me in them, and a little bit, sort of an amalgam of all the humans I've ever met in my life, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Simon is the one who's most like me, the dreamer, for sure.
I think the cool thing about imagining a story, I love that you read this story to your children, and that, and both your own children, right? Is that what you said? Your own children and your students. Yeah. I'm sure they remember you fondly because of it, like you're sharing a piece of it, but also like, I think it's interesting, like, because like with I feel this way with songwriting, like you could play characters, right? And you could write from different character perspectives or even like personify like an animal, right? But that animal might contain traits that you resonate with, right? That reflect you, but also maybe the you that you aspire to be, right? Or maybe the vulnerable side of you is like the nemesis, like if you're taking a fictional story, you could imagine something up that almost inspires you
Yeah.
to do something more or to level up.
Or a villain who does the things that you kind of in your worst moments wish he could do, or says the
Yeah.
things that you think but don't dare say aloud. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love storytelling. My son is like definitely getting into that. Like he's like all about telling stories. And sometimes I'm like, I just don't want him to like start I want him to know the difference between telling stories and lying,
Yeah.
like he likes to talk about his brother that I know I never gave birth to. So,
Right.
and he'll like make up these stories about his brother in Australia that like he does all these like grand things. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's an extraordinary guy. But he'll be like, Mama, I know I don't have a brother,
Yeah.
because sometimes I'm like, is this kid like okay? Or do
Yeah,
I
no,
need to remind him?
he's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
No,
No,
it's just his
that's awesome.
imagination, you
Yeah.
know. But
Oh,
awesome. So, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm so lucky, right? Because I'm here in this office and the door is closed and it's just me and my thoughts and my imagination, and I get to make up. It's really like people would say I'm a child, right? I mean, I just sit and make up worlds and characters and stories. And the fact that I write them down and wrap a cover around them makes it respectable because then I'm an author, but otherwise I'm just some old loony, right? But it's awesome. It's fun.
I think you're an interesting if that's what makes you a loony. I mean I'm on your side, Robin. I dig
All
it.
right,
I
good.
dig it. So you plan to write a sequel? I saw on your website fall
Yeah.
2021 is in the works.
Yeah, it is. It's almost done. Like, well, it's done, but I'm doing the final edits right now. I had actually planned to release it in the fall of 2020, and then this pandemic came around and made it impossible to get into schools and do an in-person book launch and all those kinds of things, right? So I'm going to postpone it, and hopefully by the fall I'll be able to do more stuff in person. But we've also gotten very comfortable with an online world too, right? And doing Zoom calls like this, and so one way or another, it's going to get launched in the fall. Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. And then what could your audience expect that's different from the first one? Is it like a continuum or is it a separate story?
Yeah, no, it's same characters, same type of story. Like I want my books to be fun. I'm a big believer in because you get people who are really serious about reading and serious about wanting kids to read, and sometimes they're so serious about it and have all these books with deep messages and things for them, and the kids aren't excited by it, right? And I want my books to be fun, and so action, adventure, outer space, all the favorite characters from the first book, plus new characters, higher stakes, more twists and turns. So it's sort of like the first book on steroids. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how long are each of these books? Are they pretty long or are they like short stories?
They're like 200 and what is it? About 250 pages, right?
Oh,
So
that's a good size.
yeah. Yeah. Lots of like 30 some chapters, but I parcel them into nice short little chapters. I like that when I read, and I think most kids do too. So
Yeah, I like that
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Robin, what a pleasure to get to know you. And I wish you continued success with your books, soon to be books, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where can our audience learn more about you and download or purchase your book?
Well, yeah. So if they go to my website, robinpawlik.com, ROBINPAWLAK, all the info's there. They can access the books there, or just go to Amazon. They're on Amazon too. So yeah, or come to Red Deer.
That's right. Make the
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
Are we allowed into Canada yet?
Oh, I guess not. No, I shouldn't encourage illegal activities. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Soon.
soon. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Robin, thank you again for your time, and keep that imagination flowing. I love it.
You bet. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thank you. The Brothers Blue, you guys ready to close us out with one of your jams?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having us, Amanda. This was a wonderful experience, and
Nice to hear about the book, Robin.
that's right.
Yeah, for sure.
Hope to read
Thank
it
you
soon.
guys.
We'll
Thanks.
play another brand new song. This is a song called "I'll Still Love You Tonight." All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the day the good Lord made me, I don't think he was thinking about symmetry. I got a sloped left shoulder and a knot sticking out of my right. Well, I ain't the cutest man you've ever seen, but 1 out of 10 I'm somewhere in between. And baby, I can still love you tonight. And I don't know what I'll do if I can't love you through and through. So until I do, I'll hold you tight. So honey, scooch over just a little bit closer. At the end of the day, we're only getting older. And baby, I'll still love you tonight. All right, Charlie. I've been around this world, seen a thing or two, bit off a little more than a man can chew. I've been knocked down once or twice, but that's alright. Well, I ain't the best man you've ever had, but 1 out of 10 I can't be all that bad. And baby, I can still love you tonight. And I don't know what I'll do if I can't love you through and through. So until I do, I'll hold you tight. So hey, pretty baby, put your blue dress on and we'll dance to the music of the setting sun. And baby, I'll still love you tonight. That's right, I said baby, I'll still love you tonight.
Fantastic, you guys. Thank you so much for your music and sharing your music with us today. Both the Brothers Blue and Robin Pawlik have Facebook pages, so please take a moment while you're on there and go like the both of them and follow up and see what they got coming up next. So today's theme is Imagine. Recently, I've been dusting off my artistic cobwebs as my paintbrushes and art supplies have long been neglected since my college days at Fredonia. The artistic gravitational force has fortunately captured and captivated my 4-year-old son. My partner and I, both being the artistic beings that we are, have been trying our best to encourage and nurture our son's curiosity and creativity. A few hours each week, my son and I spend together, turning 21 Pilots on full blast and fill in our sketchbooks with colored pencil drawings of random subjects. Watching the creative mind of a young child unravel is a sure way to firsthand experience the magic that blossoms from an imagination. Early in our childhood, our minds are filled with tales of mythical creatures, superheroes, personified animals, space odysseys, planet invasions, and various types of adventures. Through the imagination and artistic expression of the world's creators, our favorite characters in movies, cartoons, and books over time have inspired, enlightened, brought us comic relief, brought us healing and perspective throughout our personal evolution. Beyond entertainment, the stories and characters we've come to know allow us to access life outside our traditional bubble and have long exposed us to alternate worlds and realities. I mean, could you imagine what a disadvantage it would be to not have an imagination? Change and evolution throughout the course of our human development are largely in part due to the innovations sparked by creativity and imagination. In terms of personal development, imagining is what allows us to envision our desired future and influences the ambition and dedication we put towards achieving our goals. Imagination is what the great leaders and innovators of our time use as an agent for change, equity, and human advancement. Think about it. What does the bigger picture look like to you? What do you want out of your life and why? How do you imagine yourself now, and how can the you now begin leveling up in the future? Visualize it, believe it, and you can make it happen. You are your future. Have a wonderful hump day and Memorial Day weekend. We will see you live again next Wednesday, June 2nd. Big thank you to my better half, Beau Productions, and to our show sponsors, Rochester Woman Online. Special shout out to James Farley of Northwestern Mutual, Maiden Voyage Studios, and to all our Patreon sponsors. Shout out to Gary Curtis. I know you're watching. Thank you. And to all our friends that continue to tune in with us here weekly. You all have a great day, and we will see you soon. Thank you.